we were discussing about redox reactions, and we have discussed that always whenever there is oxidation taking place, simultaneously there is always reduction taking place. And since oxidation and reduction is taking place together, we have to define what is oxidation and reduction. So we defined it simultaneously. Can you help me with that? That what is oxidation and reduction? Let us start with oxidation and then reduction. Parallelly with me, you will also say. The first definition of oxidation was addition of oxygen. Great. And oxygen in SPDF swag. Where does oxygen lies? P block or S block?
S.
S block. Are you sure?
Oh no. P block.
P block, isn't it? P block में कौन होता है? Non-metals. Oxygen is what? Metal or non-metal?
Non-metal.
Non-metal. So it is residing on P block. If it is at P block, so it is a social worker or dacoit?
Dacoit.
Dacoits are electropositive or electronegative? Negative. So in that case, addition of, one more definition came, addition of which kind of elements? Negative elements, isn't it? In terms of addition, we had definition for reduction, which was addition of what? First of all, element wise, addition of hydrogen.
Yes.
Hydrogen is present in S block or P block?
S block.
S block. So addition of S block is social worker or dacoit?
Social workers, electropositive element.
Of electropositive elements. Now we saw the reactions in which we were not very clear about what are like if the elements are breaking up, if the element is leaving. In that case, how do we discuss that? What is oxidation and reduction? So we defined the definition of oxidation and reduction in terms of removal of elements. So we told removal of opposite of electronegative element is electropositive element. So that was definition of oxidation.
Yeah.
And then element of electropositive nature which we are taking in redox reaction is hydrogen or oxygen. Hydrogen. So it was removal of hydrogen was also known as oxidation. Parallelly, we discussed about reduction. So it was removal of electronegative element because it is opposite to electropositive element. Yes or no?
Yes.
And also removal of oxygen was known as reduction.
Yeah.
So these were the definitions, but again we saw some complex reactions in which we were not able to understand with this oxygen, electropositive elements, electronegative elements. So we came to a conclusion that let us have a final definition which will define oxidation and reduction. So we told with our basics of chemistry which we discussed in the base classes, that is the first rule is in the world of chemistry there is nothing to give and nothing to take, but just what? Electrons. So in that case, what did we do? We defined oxidation and reduction in terms of electrons. So what was the definition of oxidation? Please tell me. Removal or loss of electrons was oxidation, and gain of electrons was
reduction.
So this was the final definition of oxidation and reduction. On the basis of this, we had some few discussions, which was first discussion which kind of elements give electrons, metals or non-metals?
Non-metals. Metals.
We have discussed it yesterday also. Do not hesitate to just give the answer. So what kind of elements give the electrons, metals or non-metals? Metals. They are known as social worker or dacoits? Social workers. So metals are always what? Metals undergo oxidation or reduction? They always undergo
reduction.
Oh, self-oxidation. Yes or no?
Yes.
They give the electrons. No. So they will give the electrons. So they will lose the electrons. That means they will undergo oxidation. Yes or no?
Yes.
And non-metals. If we discuss about non-metals are dacoits or social workers?
Dacoits.
They are dacoits. If they are dacoits, so they will give the electrons or snatch the electrons.
Snatch the electrons.
Snatch the electrons. Gain of electrons is reduction or oxidation?
gain of electrons is reduction.
Reduction. So they always undergo self reduction.
Reduction.
Now, if any entity is oxidizing, if any entity is self oxidizing itself, so the front party will be reduced or oxidized. If they are self oxidizing itself, that means they are losing the electrons. The front party will oxidize or reduce.
Reduce.
Reduce. So metals are what agents?
Reducing agents.
Reducing agents. Good. So we derived that better the metal is, more reducing agent capability it have. Yes or no? It will be
Yes.
used everywhere in organic chemistry too. Inorganic chemistry. So very important point. You should have 5 stars onto it. Also non-metals, when we discussed non-metals go self-reduction. So the front party will undergo oxidation or reduction.
Oxidation.
Oxidation. So non-metals are oxidizing
Agents.
agents. ठीक है? You should write a
Yes.
note over here, note or a reminder kind of thing, that there are few things in redox reaction which are much more clearer that when we solve chemical bonding. Can you see the reaction?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you see this reaction, which I have magnified, this reaction basically here is still there were 3 elements in which we were not able to find out that every reactant, for example, CDR2O7 2 minus, SO3 2 minus, and again SO4 2 minus, all of were having oxygen. So we are not able to find out that which is undergoing oxidation and which is undergoing reduction, because it's too complex to understand where the electrons are losing and where the electrons are getting gained, isn't it? Can you just see this reaction and tell me where the electrons are gaining and where the electrons are getting lost?
Cr plus is gaining.
Are you
Cr is
speculating it, or there is some logic to it?
Cr3 plus is gaining electrons because oxygen is being lost.
In other 3 cases,
In SO4, 2 oxygen is being added, therefore there are loss of electrons.
no. We so for example, understand this. So for example, Cr2O7 2 minus and SO3 2 minus, SO4 2 minus. In such cases, we cannot just say directly that it is undergoing oxidation or reduction, because many times it becomes very complex. So there is a mechanism to be very short. Right now you are speculating. You can see one oxygen and one more oxygen as SO4 2 minus. So you are saying it is undergoing oxidation. But what if this prediction gives you the wrong answer? So we have developed a very short method in order to understand whether which species is undergoing oxidation and the other species is undergoing reduction. The method which we devised is known as oxidation number. Write down.